day of Yeshua, part 8, the last day of Yeshua. This is part 8. We're looking at here, and there's many, there's basically the three accounts of the same thing. We'll probably just read Matthew, and there's a few important notes from the other accounts. So we'll just look through Matthew and we'll refer over to Mark. And there's one thing over in John. But the verses there are Matthew 26, 30 and 36 through 40. Mark 14, 26 and 32 through 42. Luke 22, 39 through 46. And John 18, verse 1. Like I said, we're going to look at Matthew. And we'll read Matthew's version, and we'll talk a little bit about what we see going on over there, and then also, like I said, refer back to some of the points that are brought out or excluded for whatever reason from one portion and look at the other. So let's go over to Matthew 26. And we'll read verse 30 and then skip down through 36 and read through 40.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 30. And having sung a song, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Dropping down to 36. Then Yeshua came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the top ones, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the sons of Zebediah, and he began to grieve and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, "My being is exceedingly grieved, even to death. Stay here and watch with me." And going forward a little, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I desire, but as you desire." And he came to the top ones and found them asleep, and said to Peter, "So were you not able to watch with me 1 hour?"
Very good. Let's see. Let's go to. Okay, let's just go. We can add these other parts as we go, but because the other versions are essentially exactly the same except for some additions, which we'll talk about. But let's go back up to the beginning here. If we look at verse 30, verse 30 kind of brings us back to understanding kind of the where we are in the scope of things. Because we kind of, as we were looking at John and some of the literal teachings, the things that Yeshua was sharing with the disciples, you know, we kind of forget about like the timing, the kind of the context of where things was. And so when we look at verse 30 here of Matthew, having sung this song, they went out from to the Mount of Olives. They were closing the event that they were participating in together, the Passover. They were having their thing that they were calling the Seder. We know that as far as time is concerned, that they were early in relation to when the nation itself was doing it, but they were going through the things at the time, and so again, you know, they finished up, you know, with their singing which is so interesting when you think about it, because there's reason for somberness with the things that Yeshua is beginning to talk about. You know, when he's talking about the fact that even if we only just talk about the fact that, one of the 12 disciples got the devil in him and is about to flip on Yeshua. Oh, but in spite of that, let's sing a song. Like, and rejoice. Which, that's kind of a lesson. Right? Because in the midst of their of them and them not knowing who it is. And so in the midst of this thing that's going on, which is obviously something that's a terrible thing, they're still able to not have that thing be the thing that steers their life and sing praises unto the Most High. Because they wasn't just singing they wasn't just singing any old song. They were singing unto the Most High.
136.
Yeah. And so there's that. That's kind of like the backdrop of then what's getting ready to happen. Understanding that in front of them, their current reality, there's darkness. There's this thing that lingers that is bringing this kind of unsurety, this doubt. The devil. Right? But in spite of that, hallelujah. Right? In spite of this thing that's going on, somebody, like if we were somewhere, somebody jump up and start running around just right now. When you think about this, what's happening? Right? In spite of their physical reality, they're saying hallelujah. Okay, but then you go over to verse 36, right? And so Yeshua is asking for the disciples, we're going over to this place. Oh, let's look at first, before we look at that, let's go over to John 18. And John 18, I think we gotta look at 1 and 2. Just read at verse 1. And maybe, 1 and 2.
John chapter 18, verse 1 and 2. Having said these words, Yeshua went out with his taught ones beyond the Kidron torrent, where there was a garden into which he and his taught ones entered. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, also knew the place, because Yeshua often met there with his taught ones.
Okay, very good. So we get that bit of context added, helping us to understand that the place where they was, this Gethsemane place, this garden that they went to, this place that he was going to, where he told his disciples, y'all sit over here and I'm gonna go over here in this garden. It was a place that they frequented. Mm-hmm. They've been there before for these purposes of prayer. It wasn't just like a random spot that they was like, oh, this seemed like this might be a cool place. But this is a place where Yeshua went to pray. And when it comes down to Judas, being Judas, he knows where to go because they're at a place where they be at. And so, when you look at some of this, when people try to figure out where this place is, they talk about the fact that they're, you know, they say that it was this place, this owned place, that perhaps Yeshua and them was cool with the people who owned it. It was kind of a fenced-in place where they went, where it was kind of spacious, but also closed off. Where, you know, you think about going to somebody's house who live like up in the cut somewhere, where it's like you gotta be going there to get there.
Right.
It's not like it's right on the curb where, you know, everyone could see. So it's like a place that's in the cut of, you know, a place of solitude that they went to, where Yeshua is able to find, you know, repeatedly find this, you know, this place of quietness in this garden. I want to let's look at, go back to Matthew 26, verse 36. Look at that word there, Gethsemane. Okay, so this is a transliteration of two Hebrew words, which means oil press. It means oil press. It's actually a compound word, shmanim, which is oil press. It's this place where oil is pressed. You know, that's how you make oil. You take olives and you press them, and then the stuff that comes out becomes the oil. And so it's interesting that they go to this place where maybe not the place, maybe it wasn't a place where olives were pressed to make oil, but that's what the name of it was.
Maybe it was the place where they grew olives.
Maybe they had various olive trees. You know, the place that they talk about as being this place, reason why I'm saying that is because there's the place that's there, there's trees, and you know, you're able to know how old trees are. The trees are old, but they're saying that the trees aren't as old as they would be if they went all the way back to Yeshua. You know, they you know, now people, they want to kind of capitalize
Right.
on things and say, you know, this is the place you was praying just right over there. If you pay $19.99, you could go over there and be right where you prayed at. Yeah. So there's a place where you could go that's called that, but nobody who knows think that that's the real place with the real trees, but they are olive trees. Yes, you're correct. And so
I'm trying to go there though.
People who spent their money, they think that's the place.
I know. And they got souvenirs and everything. This oil was pressed from the very tree that Yeshua sat under. Yeah. But the name of the place means pressed oils. And so again, it's interesting when you think about the idea of oil and how it's made and what it does. Again, it's made from this pressing. Like if you don't press the olive, you don't get no oil. And then the extra fine oil isn't cooked. It's like pure. Like it's like unrefined. Right? But you still have the pressing though. Right? Where it's impossible to have it without that. And so you have with the idea of olive oil, this idea of anointing, with this idea of light, with this idea of holiness, and all of these things that can't even be without this some form of pressing. You can't have no light if there ain't no pressing. You can't have no oil if there isn't any pressing. You can't have holiness if you don't have kind of this separation of things, which we can think of as pressing. And
Which
so
lead
you,
us back to the repetition, by the way.
yes, thank you very much. Yes, exactly. Yes, and so you have this place where Yeshua himself here is pressing. In a place that's called the oil press. Yeshua himself is the Messiah. He is himself the anointed one. The one who oil was smeared all over. But you can't even have the oil in order to be smeared unless you have the pressing. And so when we think about over here this idea of Yeshua, and he's having this moment over here in this place that's called the oil press, and he himself is participating in this act of pressing his flesh so that oil anointing can come out. And so when we look here, read again 36 and 37.
Then Yeshua came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to the top ones, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Kepha and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be grieved and deeply distressed.
Okay, very good. So we have at this point the 11 disciples. It was 12, but they lost one. And within the disciples, you had the three, Peter and the sons of Zebedee, James and John. And so they was all there. And then so he then takes them from the rest and brings them a little bit closer, and then but he still goes off a little bit from them. Again, you're dealing with this big garden. There's lots of space there for them kind of to be spread out from one another. But he brought the top three, we could even say, the top three he brings over. And they are supposed to be there, and he says to them for them to watch, to stay here and to watch.
So when they was doing all that, who's going to be the greatest at the table? Why, when he took the three, wasn't they like, why is he taking them? Like, why isn't he taking us?
I think at this point, there's been other instances and things that happen up to this point where he's already kind of shown that they're kind of the ones. Probably, I would say probably for the most part, amongst the three of them, probably was the majority of that conversation. But he takes them over and he's calling for them to not necessarily participate in exactly what he's doing, but to be close enough to bear witness, and also kind of to be kind of like-minded, like kind of be this to encourage him, to be there for him, to it seems as if in his flesh there may have been kind of maybe some unsurety, a definite dependence, physical dependence at this time on his people. You know, he could have just went and, y'all stay over there, I'm gonna go over here and take care of this thing. I already need y'all at this point. You know, it wasn't like that. Right? He literally is saying, you sit here, I'm gonna go over there. And then he takes these three kind of with him, but not all the way with him, but they are able to begin to experience and witness what's happening with him, at least to know that Yeshua was in fact grieved and deeply distressed. Let's look at 37. Look at 37 and let's see here. Look at 37. What's that word there for grieved? Lupeo, distress. That word, if we go to Deuteronomy 15 and 10, let's look at Deuteronomy 15 and 10 if we want to see what kind of the Hebrew equivalent of that word is. If we go over to the Septuagint, we'll find that in the Septuagint, Deuteronomy 15 verse 10 uses this word. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Torah, and when it goes into Deuteronomy 15 and 10, the word for grieved here, can we read that verse? Deuteronomy 15 verse 10.
Deuteronomy chapter 15 verse 10. You shall certainly give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because for this reason Yahweh your Elohim does bless you in all your works and in all to which you put your hand.
Okay, very good. And by the way, this is kind of a principle that helps us to understand when you keep the commandments of the Most High, and they're not being grievous. You know, it's kind of based on this right here, right? But the word here that's translated as to be grieved, it's the same word in the Greek as this lupeo, which in the Hebrew here it is ra'ah, to spoil, to break, breaking to pieces. Right? And so when we think about this thing that was able to be witnessed by the disciples in regards to Yeshua, he was not doing good. Now people talk about why this is, what is going on, like, you know, that they know that he's about to take on the sin of the world or whatever. It don't really say the why. It don't say he's about to do this thing that's gonna separate him from the it don't say those things, but what it says is that he's not doing good physically, emotionally. He's grieved and deeply depressed. It don't talk about why. You know, anything that you say is just some assumption. It don't tell you that. we could look at and see what he's getting ready to do, and we could see how he's reacting preliminarily as he's getting ready to go into this thing that we know that he's getting ready to go do. And he's in pain. He's broken in pieces physically before any whip has even happened, right? There ain't this is before the crown of thorns and the spikes and the cat's tail and all of the things. This is before all that. He's broken in pieces and deeply distressed.
I'm sure he knew what was coming. I'm sure he knew what was coming. And I mean, it's like, being, doing whatever it is you're going to do. Like me, when I used to perform, and then before I go on stage, man, my stomach would be in knots. And I'd be stressing, thinking about, do I remember this? Do I remember that? I would be stressed. I would be a hot mess before I would hit the stage. Some people, they even say, they throw up and just the preparation of facing what you're going to face can, be almost as bad as actually facing it. So I could see that he probably, the reason why he was this way is because he knew what was coming.
Yeah. Yes. And again, he's in this place where the oil is pressed. And so he knows that he's going into this thing that is going to be actually the pressing of the flesh. And we see that one of the things that Yeshua is desiring at this time is the fellowship with his disciples. He knows from a physical standpoint that he's going into this thing that is it's going to be the worst thing that he's ever physically experienced. And he didn't say, well, it's cool. I'm Yeshua. I could go in here and I'm just going to do this by myself. Can't nobody die for me. I got to be the one to die. I'm the one that's doing it. Ain't nobody's getting no nails in their hands. I could just go over here and do this. But he didn't say none of those things. He said, y'all come over here, tarry right over here, and watch.
Wait, you were saying Matthew, verse 42?
Yeah.
26, 42?
Sorry, 24, 42. Sorry.
24, 42.
You said Matthew?
Yeah.
Matthew 24.
Because, this is our whole purpose.
24.
Oh, that verse there.
Yeah. Yes.
Watch, therefore, for you do not know what hour the master is coming.
What's that? 11:27. Go back to Matthew 26 and sit here, pray. Hold on. Where do we say? Oh, let's see, what is that? Where he says tarry and watch. Oh, 38. 38, watch. What word is that? Let's see. Watch. Yeah, 11:27, right? That's the same word, right? And it's not necessarily only dealing with the idea of being awake, like not sleep. Like that's part of it. That's part of the idea for you to actually be conscious with your eyes open. Right? But part of it, because we talk about the definition from it says literally or figuratively to be vigilant. And so if you're awake and you're conscious with your eyes open, you're also ready to do something if something need to be done. Right? Because I could be awake. I could be not sleep. You know, I could be somewhere and my eyes are open, but maybe I'm not even there.
I mean, he's in this vulnerable moment to where he's basically pouring his heart out, you know, and deeply distressed. Like, you know, he's not going to be trying to worry about nothing else that's going around him. Like, just watch my back, bro.
Yeah, you know, it really could be. Okay, so I think this is something that could be multiple things going on. For one, he wants to get done the thing that he's going to do. And so from that perspective, in terms of watching what's happening externally, you know, don't let nobody run up on me right now. I'm trying to do this thing. But also, they are supposed to be like aware of what he's doing and kind of on the side participating in their own way in the process. And so they got this situation where it's not necessarily a collective prayer that's happening, but it is communal in terms of they're in the same place, they're of the same mind, but they're kind of and being aware, but not necessarily you know, together. In other words, if I'm over here and you're over there, we're all praying for the same things, but not collectively, but communally. We're in the same place. And this is what is going on. This is what Yeshua is desiring of his disciples. He wants to have them there in kind of this support role. But again, he's Yeshua. Like this whole time, the whole experience that they've ever had with one another is he is carrying them around and strengthening them and empowering them in everything that they do. And here we see that he needs something from them. Physically. It's physically. He has these physical needs for his you know, from his disciples. He's 100% feeling the pressure of the pressure. Understanding that what needs to be can't be less this happens. We looked at this verse last week, but let's look at it again in Hebrews 12:2. You can look at 1 and 2, matter of fact.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. We too, then having so great a cloud of witnesses all around us, let us lay aside every weight and sin, and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking to the Prince and perfecter of our belief, Yeshua, who for the joy that was set before him endured the stake, having despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim.
So what we see over here with what's going on with Yeshua in his body is what despising the shame looks like. This thing that he was about to face was a heavy thing that in his body he was not able to endure. Well, he was able to endure it because he did endure it.
Right.
It was desirous of him to have his brothers, his disciples there with him to support this thing that he was getting ready to do. That absolutely 100% had to happen. But in his flesh needed them there with him. Y'all stay over here, tarry with me, and watch.
I mean, he was doing this for them, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't even realize what's about to take place. And then he's like, man, y'all can't even watch with me an hour, man. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah. 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 Yes. And so we see, yes, but I think what the thing we want to take notice of is the fact that from a physical standpoint, Yeshua in his flesh, he's physically distraught by what's going on. But we're also able to see kind of a glimpse. We're able to see over here that there is kind of this distinction that's able to be made between the spirit and the flesh. And how they both can simultaneously be working towards something. And those things could be going in the direct opposite directions of one another. And at the same time. Right? Yeshua says over here in verse, here, read again. Let's go over to, because let's see. Oh, he says it in here. Let's look at verse 39.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 39. And going forward a little, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I desire, but as you desire.
Yes, so again, he got his disciples. He brought them with him. He's saying, he brought out the three. He brought them to a point. Y'all stay here. Watch with me. He goes a little further. And begins to pray. And he says, if it was possible, if it's possible, if there's any other way that this could be done, I know what got to be done, but if there's a different way that we could do this thing and get the same result, could we do that? And so there's a thing that's going on in his flesh that's desiring the best possible physical result. And that's what this flesh is desiring. But then from a spiritual standpoint, he says, we can't do that. We got to do this. And so within Yeshua, we're able to see this thing that's happening where you have this distinction, this ambivalent situation where you have this reality that's happening, that's positive and is negative. It's doing two things simultaneously, moving in two different directions, the carnality and the spirituality. Look over at Mark. Look at Mark's version. Let's go over to Mark 14 and let's read 36 through 38.
Mark chapter 14, 36 through 38. And he said, Abba, Father, all is possible for you. Make this cup pass from me. Yet not what I desire, but what you desire. And he came and found them sleeping and said to Kepha, Simon, you are sleeping. You are not able to watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into trial. The spirit indeed is eager, but the flesh is weak.
Okay, very good. And so, again, it's interesting that what Yeshua says, because this thing that Yeshua is saying kind of is this ambivalent truth. This thing that talks about these things that are fighting against each other kind of equally, moving in opposite directions. He himself is experiencing this reality that he's in the middle of, physically and spiritually. He's feeling the pain, and the pain is all about physical. It's all about what his physicalness is about to experience. And so much so that he's asking for his physical disciples there to give him physical strength. And at the same time, he's speaking to the Most High for spiritual strength. And the two things that are happening are actually kind of working in the opposite directions. And so when the disciples who are there, who is calling to be there to be a help and to watch and to pray, are falling short in their part of the situation in terms of, watch, be vigilant, don't go to sleep.
Right.
He's saying to them, you at some point are going to experience something that's like unto this thing that I'm experiencing currently, and then you're going to find out that the spirit is willing, the spirit is eager, but the flesh is weak. But the thing that's happening to them right there is showing that the flesh is strong though. This is ambivalence at its finest. Yeshua said the flesh is weak, but he's saying it in the context of the fact that you stay awake,
Right.
and you can't stay awake
Yep.
because the flesh is too strong. Your body says sleep, And you, it's like the one of the Avenger, the one with the little things, where he just be like sleep, and then you just go to sleep. When that sleep come upon you, you know when that sleep come upon you, you gone, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. When that sleep come upon you, that's it,
Yep.
because your flesh is strong physically. Your flesh is fleshically powerful. And physically, there ain't nothing that you cannot test the flesh.
It'll kill you.
The flesh will kill you. It's more powerful than you.
Like you driving on the road, you know
Man.
if you go to sleep,
You'll
gonna
die. And but
Just about to bring that example up. I be driving that night, and I'm like, stay awake.
Right.
And I be, that moon, I don't know what it is about the moon. The moon puts you to sleep. And I be like, I hit them rumble strips. And be like, I'm like, oh.
Wake up,
Yeah.
wake up.
yes, the simple knowledge of you knowing that if you close your eyes, you're going to die will not save you. It won't keep your eyes open because your body says sleep. And you're saying, yes, I'll sleep. I'll listen to your body. It can't help it because it's strong. Your flesh is strong. But he's not talking about the flesh being weak physically. He's talking about the flesh being weak spiritually. The flesh is weak spiritually. It don't got nothing to do with the spirit. You can't do nothing that's spiritual with your flesh. It's too weak spiritually. But physically, man, that thing is powerful. And that's what happens. That's the context. Stay awake. Okay, yeah, we'll stay with you, master. They out. But the thing that he's requiring of his disciples is for them to be able to tap into the spirit. The same thing that he got to do. The same thing that he has to do, tap into the spirit so that he's able to go and do the thing that he got to do.
Because he was in the flesh just like them.
Yes.
Everything that they was tempted on, he was tempted on.
Yes.
So he went through this full man experience.
Yes.
So it can never be said that, oh well, you know, he had the advantage. No, he went through our experience, which lets us know that we should be walking just as he did. So when people say crazy things like, oh, he did it so we don't have to do it, it's nonsense.
Yes.
He did it to show us how to do it.
Yes. Yes. And he experienced the same thing that we go over to Romans chapter 8. And this is a perfect example of this here. Romans 8. Verse 2 and 3.
Romans chapter 8, verse 2 and 3. For the Torah of the Spirit of the life in Messiah Yeshua has set me free from the Torah of sin and of death. For the Torah being powerless in that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim having sent his own Son in the likeness of flesh, of sin, and concerning sin, condemned sin in the flesh.
Okay, very good. So Yeshua existed in the likeness of sinful flesh. He had flesh. He had a body. He was a human. And he experienced things like how we experience things where our flesh, our body wants to do things. And that's what he's relaying to the disciples. The spirit's willing. The spirit is ready to go in terms of doing things spiritually. But the flesh isn't ready to go in that direction. The flesh wants to go somewhere else. It wants to do selfish things. And so Yeshua has this body, this flesh, that has the propensity, the ability, and the want to do, this or that. Mm-hmm. In this case, it was, let this cup pass from me. Which isn't the will of the Most High. The will of the Most High is for him to get the cup and to drink it up. But in his flesh, in his distress, in his physical weariness and anguish that he was going through, his flesh had requests of him. And he said, request denied. And so we have to think about what Yeshua is showing us here. Like, we live in this life and our flesh wants to do this or do that. And Yeshua is saying to us, just like Nancy Reagan said to us, just say no. It doesn't matter that we're in this flesh, in this carnal body, and that this flesh has desires and appetites that want to be fed. He said, not my will, but thy will. Yeah. And so it's interesting that we're able to see Yeshua, who, this whole time when we're looking at Yeshua, we see everybody around Yeshua needing for Yeshua to be there for them. Mm-hmm. And then just for this small little moment, we see where the thing that Yeshua needs, he needs that support from his disciples, for them to be there with him, because the flesh is weak. And strong. Physically. And so it's interesting when we look at the spirit. He said the spirit is willing. It's eager. Here, let's look at this word here. Look at this word for eager. Go back to what is that? Mark 14:38. The spirit is ready. The spirit is ready, willing. And so if we were to look at a word that is the Hebrew equivalent of that word, look at the Strong's. Look at the Strong's H5081. The Hebrew equivalent of this word here in the Greek. It gives us something that's very interesting. H5081. Nadib, which is the same as Nadab, the son of Aaron, who gets burnt up. Right, but the word there, Nadib, is magnanimous, grandee, free. The thing that I wanted to pay attention to is that it gets down to noble or prince, right? And so, and the way that this word is mostly translated in the Torah is dealing with individuals and their titles as like noble, being a noble or a prince. And so a prince really is this person who has this power, this tangible power that he receives from his king, but it's not all the way realized. So it's like unrealized power, designated power. He has power. It's like potential, right? That exists there, but it has to be kind of put into action in its proper manner. And so when you think about the idea of the Spirit and its willingness, we're indeed talking about real tangible power. But it has to be used like this, just like this receptacle. Sitting at a receptacle is tangible, real power. But until you put that plug in it, it's just power just sitting there waiting. It's not doing anything.
Gotta tap in.
You got to tap into it. It got to be used. If we go back to Romans 8, go back to Romans 8. The Spirit got to be tapped into because it's there, ready, willing, able, eager to act. But it got to be used. He said, what's 8 and 9 say?
Romans chapter 8, verse 9. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If indeed the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you, and if anyone does not have the Spirit of Messiah, this one is not his.
If you don't got the potential of the power of the Most High in you, you are none of his. But he said, and read verse 14 though.
Verse 14. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim, these are sons of Elohim.
Okay, so he took it a little bit further. You don't got the Spirit, you ain't even in the building. You're none of his. But that's just talking about the potential. If you're not led by the Spirit, that would be the opposite of what's being said here. Those that are led by the Spirit, they are the sons of Elohim. If you're not led by the Spirit, then you're not the son of Elohim. The opposite is true. so again, if we go back to what we see with Yeshua, Yeshua's having this situation where he's experiencing all that must happen so that the spirit, the oil, could come out. This physical pressing that must be so that the oil could come out. And not only for his own self, only. He needs for his flesh to be pressed so that the oil could come out for himself. But he needs for his flesh to be pressed so that the oil could come out for all mankind. And so that we can partake in the spirit of the Most High. But it can't be without the pressing. And so it's very interesting when we look at this kind of these last moments before Yeshua goes off into the hands of the enemy. The process that we see going on, the fact that we see before this thing happened, like he's literally has to die, and he knows that he has to die. And so it's like he's beginning to experience the fullness of the pressure on his body that's going to literally crush his body so that the oil anointing spirit can emerge. And he's telling his disciples, this thing that's happening to me is going to also happen to you. And he wants for them to be able to witness and experience this process, because this is part of the process, this overcoming, this putting down of the carnal desires, this idea of allowing for not doing the things that allow for physical comfort and physical happiness and comfortableness to be the thing that dictate what it is that Yeshua is doing. But he's accepting the uncomfortableness, he's accepting the pressure and the weight of what's going on, and understanding that this is all necessary for the oil to be able to come out. When we think about the priests and the fact that they had to bring that pure oil and keep that oil on hand to fill the lamps, to assure that the light of the menorah burnt continually. We only get that part, bring that pure oil for the lamps. But there's a process in order to get the pure oil to be able to keep it and have it ready to use it in the first place. And so when we look at Yeshua, who, he showing his disciples that, we have to get to this place of being able to conquer our physical desires, is showing them what the thing looks like, where he's in utter physical anguish, where blood is literally coming out of his body and he's not cut. Oh, we didn't read that part. Go over to Luke 22, 44 through 46.
Luke chapter 22, 44 through 46. And being in agony, he was praying more earnestly. and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And rising up from prayer and coming to his taught ones, he found them sleeping from grief. And he said to them, "Why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into trial."
Okay, it's interesting we look over here and the idea of his disciples sleeping from grief. They partially are experiencing the thing that Yeshua is experiencing, but their body's so tired they can't go on. But Yeshua is not able to stop. And he's so physically distraught that things are happening inside of his body that's abnormal. Like his body is just so much in agony that this thing is happening that is highly unusual. But the idea is the fact that in spite of that, he continues with what the Spirit will have to do. And so again, it helps for us to be able to understand that, many times in this life calls for us to be doing things that you do not physically want to do. But it's necessary for us to physically press on because of what it is that the Spirit desires for us to be doing. Despite the fact that Yeshua is going through all of these things in his body, he is not able to stop. He cannot stop the process. He has to keep going. And again, he wants for his disciples to experience this because they're going to get into a situation where they're facing these physical hurdles, these trials, these tribulations, where it's going to be unto death. And if they're not able to see how Yeshua himself makes it through, they aren't going to be able to make it through. And the same is true for you and I. Understanding that Yeshua gets through the power of the Spirit. He's able to endure these physical abnormalities and this extreme uncomfortability because he's not basing his actions on the pain, the agony, the discomfort, the inconvenience. He's basing it on the Spirit and the fact that he's in the oil press and he's just being pressed.
I just was thinking about, my little message for women is about alignment, and I brought up The Rock and how on their old website it said, we have Sabbath service no matter what the weather is like. So
The Rock. Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah, Buffalo, New York. And you know how much snow they get in Buffalo, right?
I know.
Be 12 inches of snow, and they're like, we have Shabbat service. No matter, you don't have to call us and say, it's going to be a blizzard today. Are you guys still on? So they kind of put it on their website so people wouldn't ask them that. You know what I mean? But it just kind of reminds me of just what Yeshua's thought process is. It don't matter what is going to take he is going to, it don't matter how hard or difficult or all of those different things, he is still going to do it.
Yes. Yes, and the example like is like the epitome of like there's no agony greater than this agony. He has so much inner turmoil that the wrong liquid is coming out of his glands.
He wasn't sweating, he was bleeding.
That's right.
Right? His flesh is so turned upside down that instead of the thing that's supposed to come out when you get hot and it cools you down, life juices are emitting out of him when he's about to die. So interesting. But again, you know, Yeshua, the message that Yeshua is bringing out is the fact that the things that you see in the flesh, no matter how hard those things are, how insurmountable they seem to be, those things compared to the Spirit are nothing. They do not compare. They are not obstacles. They're just part of the journey. It don't matter that his journey is hard. There's still a journey to be had. It don't matter that, you know, at this time on the way is coming to people that's getting ready to do something to him. It don't matter that they're coming. They're not running. They're waiting for the things to happen.
Right.
Because their situation and their circumstance is just part of what's going on. It's not the defining thing for, you know, their existence. It's not the thing that defines their existence. It's just a thing that's happening inside of their reality. All right. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, comments of anything here tonight? Ari,
But I only read on this one there. But I was
okay, thank you. All right.
I want to read Romans 8 through 11.
Say that again.
Romans 8 through 11.
8. Oh,
Yeah.
8 through 11?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Read it. Romans 8 through 11.
Romans 8 through 11. And those who are in the flesh are unable to please Elohim. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If indeed the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you, and if anyone does not have the Spirit of Messiah, this one is not his. And if Messiah is in you, the body is truly dead on account of sin. But the Spirit is life on account of righteousness.
And 11.
And if the Spirit of him who is raised Yeshua from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Messiah from the dead shall also give life to your mortal bodies through his Spirit dwelling in you.
So I just, I don't know, there was a little bit more than what Bible said, but I was just saying, like, the same Spirit is in us as well, so we also have the same opportunity if we dip into the Spirit.
Yeah, this is I think it's important that Yeshua here really wanted for his disciples to be able to experience the anguish, the pain, the uncomfortableness that Yeshua was experiencing, because he was showing them, because Yeshua walked around with the presence of the Most High in him. And so what he was doing was making possible for his disciples to be able to also walk around with the spirit of the presence of the Most High in them. And so he would have been able to show them how to allow for the spirit to reign inside of them, in spite of the fact that the flesh is still there wanting to be the boss. And this is also kind of what Paul talks about leading up to Romans chapter 8 and chapter 7, where he knows what to do. I got the commandments. What's right is in me, but how to do the thing that I know isn't. My body wants to rule, but the spirit wants to rule too. And so who gonna win? And Yeshua is showing the disciples what it looked like when the spirit went. And so we have to be able to also learn from looking at Yeshua to know that we're able to, in spite of our sinful flesh, we're able to walk victoriously in Yeshua through the power that he makes available, that begins in this garden here, with that initial pressing.
I want to add too that when we read that part and it speaks about them sweating blood, I'm like, is that literal? Or is that, hypothetical, like philosophical, those deeper spiritual things? So I looked it up. It's a rare medical condition, but there's historical events where people, most commonly through history, where they were facing execution, where it happened. It's not an uncommon thing. And it says, it's called permahidrosis, a very rare medical condition where a person actually sweats blood. And one of the number one cause for it is severe mental or emotional distress, such as fear, intense anxiety, or trauma, causes the body to release high levels of stress hormone and cause you to actually sweat blood. So it's a real. So I look at that too, as he was really fighting the flesh to that extent where he was actually sweating blood.
Yeah.
Wonder why he fell asleep.
Yeah. Yes, and which only just it only just intensifies the fact that when the Spirit of the Most High dwells on the inside of us, it causes us to be able to do like Yeshua did. Where in his flesh he was supposed to lose. In his body was supposed to win this battle. He was supposed to have so much pain and anguish and distress inside of him that he was supposed to succumb to the desire of his flesh. But as soon as the words even came out of his mouth, he already changed his mind that fast.
Same sentence.
Same sentence. And when we looked at the other part where it talks about the fact that the disciples was asleep because of their grief, them being able to experience Yeshua's grief was so grieving to them that they wasn't able to do anything but let their flesh take over them. And so it wasn't even their grief, it was his grief that they was experiencing that was too much. But through the power of the Spirit, which he has at this time, allows for this pressing that begins here and continues all the way up until his death. It presses him to death, literally, so that the Spirit can be released and used and given to us. So, it's just such a powerful message that we're able to see here, and it should help for us to understand that this road is hard, it's rough physically, it's physically hard, it's spiritually easy, it's physically hard, but we live in these bodies, right? And we have to deal with the things that happen to our bodies. And so in that regard, it's difficult. But because of the fact that we're supposed to allow the Spirit to rule and reign inside of us, it makes this hard road easy.
I wanted to say that, there's so many like nuggets in this portion. But speaking to what you just said, like, it's hard in the flesh and easy in the spirit. So we know that if we're in constant contact with, people who are in the flesh every single day, the flesh is all around us and is running and ruling this world and most people that live in the world. So we need to be conscious of that and know where we're at. Even those who walk amongst us, like, the one that was a demon, basically, when that happens, this is a warning. It's going to happen to each and every one of us. Somebody who walks among us is going to betray us. And do we now say, I'm done with this? These people in here crazy. Because I hear lots of people that walk away from the faith because of something somebody who's supposedly in the faith is doing. But we need to know that just like the Messiah, they sung songs right after this was revealed. So we need to keep our eyes to the Most High. We need to expect these things to happen. These are warnings that he wanted them to watch and be around so they could see everything that it takes to finish your course. So all of you young people, take heed. Take heed. It's not going to be easy, but you can do it. You can do it. You follow after Yeshua. You be led by the Spirit, and you'll overcome.
Yes. All right. That being said, we will be done for now. Y'all willing? We'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at the annual Torah portion and the words of the Master. Oh yes, we have our schedule. That scheduled up so everybody can see over there for the upcoming high days. We have, let me put that on this thing there. We have coming Wednesday, September 24th, 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock. Trumpets out at Lakeshore Pavilion, North Park. will be out there keeping trumpets together.
The night before.
The night before that, we'll go up to, which will be Tuesday, September 23rd. We'll go up to our sighting location to see the moon. That signifies the 7th month, the beginning of the 7th month.
It seemed like we was just there like a couple weeks ago.
I know, we was just there like 7 months ago. Time just keep on
time
going.
is
It's
flying.
flying by.
Yes.
We was just up there in the springtime, and now here it is about to be the fall. And so we'll be doing that, and then 10 days after that, we'll have the Day of Atonement, which actually is on Friday, October the 3rd. Here, also, Feast Tabernacles, October 8th through the 14th, will be in our retreat. Actually, we'll be there also on the 15th, same place. And so, this is what we'll be doing for the next. We have a few weeks until this begins, but this is just to have everyone know what's what. All right. That being said, for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.